So if you're a leader, or maybe you work closely with talent acquisition, you know the feeling. That cost of early employee turnover,
Yeah.
it's often kind of hidden, but it's absolutely enormous, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's way more than just the rehiring costs.
Yeah, it's like the lost knowledge, the hit to morale, how team momentum just sort of crumbles when that promising hire walks out after just a few months.
And the common wisdom seems to be, well, you just have to cross your fingers and hope people stick around.
Hope is a terrible strategy, right?
Okay.
And that's exactly what we want to dig into today.
It really is. Our sources point us straight to the work of QuotaPro Leadership. They've actually built this really structured system specifically to tackle this new hire attrition problem.
Okay.
They're trying to shift retention from just being, a metric you look at once a year into something strategic, operational, that actually builds advantage over time.
And their core idea, the problem they state right up front, it just clicks immediately. They argue most companies, they obsess over hiring velocity, like how fast can we fill this seat?
Exactly. All the focus is there.
But then the actual staying part, the retention piece, it's dangerously left to chance, almost an afterthought.
That's precisely it. They call it a fundamental imbalance. You pour maybe millions into sourcing tech recruitment.
Right.
But the second that new hire walks in, their success often gets delegated to, well, the intuition of a manager who's already swamped. And the result, those early exits, people leaving in the first, say, 3-6 months, they're like silent killers. They drain knowledge, erode the culture, long before your traditional HR dashboards even notice a blip.
So the mission here isn't damage control after someone leaves.
No, it's proactive architecture, building the system before they even think about leaving.
Okay, so let's unpack that architecture. QuotaPro has this foundation called the North Star Leadership methodology. Now, for our listeners dealing with scale, this sounds like a big deal standardizing how leaders behave, like a common operating system for managers and teams.
Standardization is absolutely the key if you want to scale this. You can't just let every manager make up their own onboarding. That guarantees inconsistency.
Sure. Chaos, basically.
Pretty much. So the North Star methodology, it mandates 3 core structural elements. Things that must be implemented everywhere to ensure that consistent, high-quality experience for every employee.
Okay, lay those 3 pillars on us. What are they?
All right, the first one is really foundational. Comprehensive role clarity and outcome-based onboarding. And this is hyper-focused on those first 90 days.
Outcome-based, okay.
Yeah, it's not enough to just hand over a job description. The new hire needs crystal clarity on the metrics, the expected behaviors, and crucially, what does great actually look like in their specific role right from day one?
That makes so much sense. It tackles that ambiguity, that initial anxiety.
Exactly. That anxiety is a massive retention killer. If someone spends their first month just guessing what they're supposed to be doing.
They're halfway out the door mentally, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, what's pillar number 2?
Number 2 is a defined manager rhythm. This means those one-on-ones, they don't get canceled. They're not just casual check-ins. They are structured for impact. They include proactive, scheduled feedback loops, and really intentional, visible conversations about career design. Manager's commitment to that new hire's growth, it has to feel solid, predictable, prioritized, not just squeezed in.
Okay, structured rhythm. Got it. And the third element, you mentioned something about belonging.
Yeah, this is the third one, belonging by design. This moves us a bit from pure process into the cultural fabric.
Oh, so
It mandates specific rituals, things designed specifically and consistently to build psychological safety and team pride. We're not just talking about, ordering pizza on Fridays.
right, not just perks.
No, it's about engineering those moments where an employee feels genuinely seen, valued, and importantly, safe enough to ask questions or even fail sometimes without fear. Retention today, especially, it's as much about belonging as it is about the paycheck.
That really resonates. But okay, you roll out a new methodology. How do you make sure managers actually do it? We all know how these things can just fizzle out.
That's the critical next step. They don't just hope for adoption. They turn leadership proficiency into something you can actually certify.
Certify. Interesting.
Yeah, they embed this methodology through customized training, yes, but also through something called the North Star Leadership Academy. It actually certifies managers to lead specifically for retention.
So it's not just like optional professional development.
Yeah.
It's a required skill.
Precisely. They use cohort learning, practice scenarios, apply these playbooks directly, and their tagline kind of sums up the seriousness. Certified to retain, certified to lead.
Wow.
They're basically stating retention isn't just a nice-to-have skill, it's a core competency that needs to be taught, practiced, and frankly, proven. That's how you stop managers from just slipping back into their old, maybe inconsistent habits.
I really like that they're operationalizing leadership itself. Okay, let's get specific now. Our listeners value clear, actionable stuff. Let's zoom in on those crucial first 90 days. This is where the system really comes alive, right? What specific measurable changes happen during that period?
Yeah, think of the first 90 days like the MVP, the minimum viable product of the employee experience. The goal is simple. Maximize the value they feel, minimize the friction they encounter.
Okay, MVP thinking. I like that. And it sounds like we're already treating retention like a product here.
Yeah.
So what are the timeline milestones?
Right. So in the first week, day 1 through day 7, the big focus is smoothing out that pre-boarding, making sure they have access to everything they need, and really cementing that understanding of what great looks like, that role clarity we talked about. They need to know the destination right away.
Got it. Remove the initial hurdles. Then what?
Then you hit that first major milestone. By day 30, the new hire absolutely should have achieved their first tangible, shipped outcomes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is critical. They need to deliver real value, experience that feeling of success early. And at the same time, that defined manager rhythm, those structured 1.1s, they have to be steady, visible, so the person feels productive, not just adrift.
Delivering something measurable in 30 days,
Mhm.
that's a high bar for a lot of companies, but I
Oh.
totally see how it aligns with that product idea ship value fast.
It's absolutely crucial. If a new hire gets to day 30 and hasn't really delivered anything concrete, that's when the internal doubt starts creeping in, maybe friction with the manager. It builds fast.
Okay, so day 30 is about the first win. What about day 60?
Moving to day 60, those growth plans we mentioned, they aren't just vague discussions, they are live. The employee can actually see a path forward. And those recognition and feedback rituals, they're becoming normalized, just part of how the team operates.
Okay, so the path forward is clear, feedback is normal, and the payoff comes at day 90.
Yes, day 90 is sort of the stabilization point. The intended result is confidence, or a real sense of belonging, and operational velocity. They're up and running effectively. And crucially, the sources really emphasize this. This state should be achieved without needing heroics from the manager or lots of chaotic rework. The system should deliver this success, not just individual manager burnout.
That's key. The system does the heavy lifting. Now, this whole systematic approach, it's implemented through what QuotaPro calls the retention architecture. Sounds like more than just a handbook.
Oh, definitely. It's the framework that actually organizes all that leadership behavior we just discussed. It's got 4 core components that work together.
Okay, what are they?
First is the blueprint. Think of this as the high-level strategy document. It codifies the principles for the leadership systems and the culture that are designed specifically to reduce attrition.
The why and what, and the how is in the playbook.
Exactly. The playbooks are the operational tools. They're very specific, very tested. Things like standardized manager 1.1 agendas, structured stay interview scripts, going beyond just how's it going. Plus recognition cadences, clear escalation guardrails for when a manager does spot a potential flight risk. The goal is to remove the need for managers to just improvise all the time.
That's a really important distinction. These aren't just templates, they're tested intervention tools.
Yeah.
Great. Component 3.
Third is signals. Now we're talking about the data layer. This is the early warning system. It tells you where you need to coach now, not after someone's resigned.
Proactive, based on data.
Right. It shifts managers from reacting to looking ahead, intervening based on predictive data points.
And the final piece, rituals. I like that word. It sounds habitual, embedded.
Yeah, rituals are defined as these lightweight, repeatable habits, things that ensure the cultural experience is consistent, even across very different teams. Could be quick weekly shout-outs, maybe structured knowledge sharing, a standard way to recognize milestones.
Yeah.
It ties right back to that belonging by design pillar. It's the daily proof of the culture.
Okay, so we have the methodology, the 90-day plan, the architecture. Now let's talk tech. This needs to scale, right? And that seems to be where the AI layer fits in. Tell us about NorthStarAI.
Right. NorthStarAI is designed to give managers that kind of superhuman clarity, but without burying them in admin work. It provides these in-the-flow nudges and guidance.
In the flow, how does that work?
So imagine the system flags say low 1.1 completion rates for a new hire, and maybe that's combined with a late time to first impact. The manager doesn't have to dig for that. They get a real-time prompt.
Ah, Okay.
Yeah, maybe suggesting a specific action, like, hey, maybe schedule a dedicated stay interview or time to check in specifically on their growth plan.
That's the difference between just relying on manager intuition, which varies wildly, and having an instrumented system.
Exactly. Instrumented management.
So how do they measure success?
Right.
You mentioned they lean heavily on leading indicators. Why the big focus there rather than just tracking who leads?
Because leading indicators predict the future risk, and crucially, they're actionable. If you wait for the lagging indicator, like the exit rate well, the chance to actually do something is already gone.
Right, it's too late then.
Leading indicators let you make a coaching intervention now that might change the outcome. Lagging indicators, they only really allow for post-mortem analysis. Useful, but not proactive.
Okay, so what are the key predictors they're actually instrumenting? What signals are they looking for?
They zero in on about 4 main ones. Time to first impact, basically. How fast does the new hire deliver real, measurable value?
Okay.
Then, manager 1.1 completion rates, are those crucial rhythms actually happening? Third, buddy or mentor touch points, making sure that social integration piece is working. And finally, the belonging pulse. This often uses something like a modified ENPS or maybe specific questions about psychological safety. How are they feeling?
So those are the input behaviors, the things that actually drive retention. And the lagging stuff, like exit rates, that's just for context.
Exactly. They track things like early tenure exit rate, regrettable attrition, of course, but those are historical data points. They aren't real-time coaching tools.
Oh.
The real magic is how the system takes all this complex data and synthesizes it into one simple, actionable index number, the North Star retention signal.
Ah, a single score, like a health index, a simple 0 to 100. How's that used in practice?
They call it your compass for retention clarity. So if a particular team's index drops below a certain threshold, it doesn't just send an alert. It actually triggers mandatory targeted coaching sprints.
Mandatory coaching.
Yeah, led by the academy folks, focusing on the specific root behavioral issues that the underlying data flagged. It turns what could be a vague systemic risk into a defined urgent project to fix it.
Okay, if we pull back and connect this all to the bigger picture, this whole framework seems built on one core philosophical shift, doesn't it? What's the fundamental idea that makes the system work where maybe more passive HR programs tend to fail?
It comes back to that concept we touched on earlier, treating retention like you treat product development.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, when you build a product, you don't just launch it and hope people like it, right? You define very specific outcomes you want users to achieve. You work hard to ship value quickly, like those day 30 milestones for the employee.
Right.
You instrument the entire user journey with data that's the signals layer, and you consciously design feedback loops so you can iterate and improve the experience.
So retention stops being this fuzzy cultural goal
Exactly.
and becomes a measurable, engineered product experience that you're actively delivering to your employees.
And that leads directly to their core belief, their fundamental conclusion. Systems, not slogans, are what make new behaviors stick. You can put up all the motivational posters you want, but without the formalized blueprint, the playbooks to guide action, the signals to provide feedback, and those consistent rituals reinforcing the culture, manager behavior will almost always drift back to the path of least resistance. And that path usually means neglecting proactive retention work.
Systems over slogans. Makes sense. And we know this isn't just theory because they actually offer different ways to implement it, right?
Yeah.
Different engagement models.
Yeah, that confirms it's designed to be a durable architecture, not just a one-off project. They mention things like a quick 4 to 6 week sprint, maybe just to get the core metrics and signals stood up,
Okay.
all the way up to a 9-month cohort academy for full management certification and deep embedding of the whole system.
So it's designed to meet companies wherever they are on that journey,
Okay.
whether they just need a quick visibility boost or a complete overhaul of how they manage people. Okay, so let's synthesize this. What does this all mean for you, the listener, as you think about your own retention challenges? The big takeaway seems to be that truly strategic retention rests on, well, maybe 3 connected pillars.
I think that's a good way to put it.
First, operationalizing leadership itself,
Right.
like with the North Star methodology. Second, codifying the specific behaviors you need through things like the architecture and that structured 90-day plan. And third, instrumenting performance using AI and those leading indicators. It really feels like it's about taking the guesswork out, managing actual outcomes, not just hoping for the best based on good intentions.
Yeah, it's that critical shift from being surprised when someone hands in their notice
Right.
to actually knowing with data which behaviors, which rhythms, which metrics are essential for people to not just stay, but really thrive long term.
We highlighted right at the start how companies tend to pour energy into hiring velocity, putting immense pressure on those first 90 days to deliver confidence, belonging, and velocity. And this system we've discussed is incredibly structured, very intense during that initial period.
It absolutely is. High focus, high energy.
And that brings up maybe a final provocative thought for you to consider as you design your own strategies. If the system puts such a heavy focus on that initial period, dedicating all that manager energy, the structured check-ins, the specific rituals, what are the potential unintended risks for retention after that intense 90-day system inevitably eases off a bit?
That's a really interesting point. Does the retention product experience kind of degrade after the initial push?
Yeah, does it feel like the free trial ended? And if so, how do you architect the next 90 days and the 90 after that to maintain that momentum, that velocity, that continued sense of belonging?
That's a huge strategic question, isn't it? How do you avoid that post 90-day slump in engagement and focus? Definitely something to keep top of mind.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into engineering retention. Thanks for joining us.